The ocean is a master of concealment, but it is terrible at keeping secrets. For more than 13 centuries, fishermen along the coast of Mahabalipuram repeated the same story. The temple standing on the shoreline was never meant to stand alone. According to the legend, it was only the last survivor of something far greater. 6 other temples once stood beside it, 7 magnificent pagodas in total. Then, the ocean took them. For generations, historians dismissed the story as myth, a beautiful legend, nothing more, until the ocean briefly gave the past back. In 2004, the Indian Ocean tsunami struck the coast of southern India. But just before the wave arrived, something strange happened. The sea suddenly pulled away from the shore. The water retreated hundreds of meters, and for a few brief minutes, the ocean floor was exposed. People standing on the beach saw something no one expected. Rows of massive stone boulders, shapes that looked carved, dark structural outlines stretching across the seabed. Then the ocean rushed back, and the ruins disappeared again beneath the waves. But the legend was no longer just a story. Something was down there. And now, a new investigation has gone deeper than anyone ever has before. A high-resolution autonomous underwater drone was deployed off the coast of Mahabalipuram. Unlike human divers, the drone does not rely on clear water. Its sensors cut through the murky darkness of the Bay of Bengal, mapping the seabed with precise sonar imaging. And what it discovered is far more complex than anyone expected. Nearly 2 kilometers offshore, the drone detected a series of massive parallel wall structures buried beneath layers of sediment. But these ruins do not belong to a single historical period. The data reveals something far more unusual. A vertical layering of construction. The visible ruins from the 7th century Pallava dynasty appear to rest directly on top of something much older. A deeper foundation built from enormous blocks of megalithic stone, which raises an unsettling possibility. The temples we know today may not be the original structures here. They may simply be the latest layer, built on top of something ancient, something already standing when the Pallava builders arrived. This discovery changes how archaeologists view Mahabalipuram. It is no longer just a historic temple site. It may be evidence of a coastal civilization that existed long before written history began. To investigate further, researchers deployed a specialized deep-scan drone equipped with synthetic aperture sonar. This technology can penetrate the thick sediment that is accumulated over centuries. Instead of studying rocks visible on the surface, the mission focused on what lay buried beneath the sand. And what the drone found was remarkable. A perfectly linear structure extending nearly 500 meters across the seabed. The sonar images revealed massive granite blocks, perfectly squared, some weighing more than 10 tons. And they were not scattered randomly. They were arranged in patterns that suggest a fortified harbor structure or perhaps a ceremonial causeway. The physical details captured by the drone are difficult to dismiss. Several of the stones display clear tool marks, small drilled holes used in ancient techniques for splitting granite. The same technique can still be seen in the famous monolithic rathas located inland from the coast. But there is one crucial difference. The submerged blocks show far greater erosion. Their surfaces suggest they were exposed to wind and weather for thousands of years before the ocean eventually covered them. And the discoveries did not stop there. The drone sensors detected a second grid of foundations buried even deeper, nearly 3 meters beneath the visible ruins. Older, larger, hidden beneath the seabed. With every sonar pass, the site continues to grow in both scale and age. Measurements of the submerged walls suggest structures nearly 6 meters tall. These were not small shrines. They were monumental constructions that once dominated the coastline. Building something like this from granite would require advanced knowledge of structural engineering. The drone also mapped interconnected chambers carved directly into the bedrock, spaces that resemble the cave temples on land, but on a scale far larger than anything currently recorded. Even more intriguing are the drainage channels built into the foundations, channels designed to control flooding, tidal pressure, and monsoon water, all signs of an urban center designed to survive the forces of the sea. Then, the drone reached the 2-mile mark from the shoreline, and that is where the timeline began to break. The sonar detected a massive circular platform resting 15 meters below the surface. That depth corresponds to sea levels last seen near the end of the last ice age, nearly 10,000 years ago, which suggests something extraordinary. The site was not suddenly submerged during the Palava period. Instead, it may represent a settlement that existed for thousands of years, gradually swallowed by rising seas, which means the Palava temples were not the beginning of this story. They may simply have inherited the site and built upon it. But the most unsettling discovery came during a descent into a vertical shaft located near the center of the deeper foundation grid. As the drone's lights illuminated the chamber walls, something unexpected appeared. Carvings. High-relief engravings carved directly into the stone, but these carvings look nothing like the Hindu imagery seen on the shore temple. Instead, they are geometric, abstract, symbols that resemble markings found in Neolithic sites across the world. If that interpretation proves correct, it means the legendary 7 pagodas may have been built on top of something far older. A culture that existed long before the religious traditions of the Yam region even emerged. And that creates a profound paradox. For decades, historians believed the transition from wooden architecture to stone temples in southern India began during the 7th century. But if these lower structures are truly Neolithic, then monumental stone construction here began thousands of years earlier than anyone believed. The symbols themselves are now undergoing analysis. Some researchers suspect they may represent astronomical markers, a symbolic system tied to celestial alignment. But not everyone agrees with these interpretations. Mainstream archaeologists argue the structures could simply be the outer defenses of the Palava harbor, submerged slowly through coastal erosion and seismic activity. They suggest the deeper formations may be natural fractures in the granite bedrock, a phenomenon that can sometimes mimic artificial shapes. This explanation preserves the existing historical timeline, but it struggles to explain the drone's sonar data because the images clearly show right angles, symmetry, and repeating geometric layouts. Others propose a far more controversial theory, that Mahabalipuram may represent a fragment of Kumari Kandam, a legendary lost landmass described in ancient Tamil literature. According to these texts, Kumari Kandam once connected India to regions as distant as Africa and Australia, before being swallowed by the sea. Western scholars often dismiss the story as myth, but the geological evidence of rising sea levels after the last ice age tells a very similar story. Entire coastlines vanished beneath the water, and civilizations built along them vanished as well. But there is an even more unsettling possibility, that the ruins beneath Mahabalipuram belong to a global maritime culture erased by catastrophic flooding at the end of the Ice Age, a civilization that mastered coastal engineering long before recorded history began. If that theory is correct, civilization may not progress in a straight line. It may rise, collapse, and rise again. The structures beneath Mahabalipuram could represent the technological shadow of one such forgotten society. Yet despite these discoveries, the investigation has faced growing resistance. Shortly after the drone data was leaked to independent researchers, further autonomous missions were restricted, officially citing security concerns and the protection of national heritage. Funding for deeper excavation has been denied, and parts of the original post-tsunami reports remain classified. Mahabalipuram is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Acknowledging that its most significant structures lie underwater and may be thousands of years older than believed would require rewriting major chapters of human history. For now, the ruins remain where they have always been, silent, hidden beneath the waters of the Bay of Bengal. But one question now echoes far beyond this coastline. If a single drone exploring a small area of ocean can uncover a complex that challenges thousands of years of accepted history, what might still be hidden along the rest of our coastlines? After all, most of humanity has always lived within reach of the sea. Civilization may not have begun in a single place. It may have begun along shores that no longer exist. Today, the ruins beneath Mahabalipuram remain suspended between the past and the future. The drone's mission has ended, but the data it returned remains. A silent witness to something ancient, something powerful, and something the ocean kept hidden for thousands of years. This may not be the end of the mystery. It may be the moment the vault finally began to open.